For 10 years and more, the Tories have got into power because they've gained your vote by making you afraid of Labour. Oh, if you don't vote for us, you'll let Labour in. They haven't been attractive enough in their own merit to attract voters. They've had to threaten you with the fact if you don't vote for them, you'll let Labour in. They won't be able to understand now why councillors and mayors are jumping ship and going to reclaim and reform. They won't be able to get it because they're leaving the Tory party. And then what will happen in the groups? They'll all start again now saying, but if you do this, if you start going to smaller parties, you'll let Labour in. Don't you think that the Tories by now should be giving you something to vote for instead of voting for something to avoid? The working man is who put Boris in number 10 and Theresa May and David Cameron. The working man, not the financiers in the city, not the big Tory backers, not the toffs, not the wealthy, because there's simply not enough of them. The working man built the red wall, nobody else. And that working man can see through what's happening to his life. The working man sits there in his semi with his 5-year-old car, can't go on holiday anymore because he's got to get tested. And even if he's had an experimental drug with no long-term data, he still has to get tested. He can't afford to do all that, he can't afford the quarantine, so his holidays are up the spout. He sits there looking down his drive at a 5-year-old car, knowing full well he won't be able to afford a £50,000 to £70,000 electric vehicle. And knowing that left to these comedians, in the next few years he'll have to spend £15,000 on an electric boiler that won't even heat his home unless he has all his house re-insulated. Check it out with your heating engineer. And you're wondering why the working man is jumping away from the Tory party. You're not giving him anything to vote for. Simultaneously, he sits there and watches his kids depleted of education, dumbed down because they're missing school, and they're isolated and depressed because they can't be with their friends properly, because we never know when we're going to be locked down again. And the future is at the weekend, hopefully, if the laws haven't changed, going to see his mother who's in an old people's home, who's sitting in a soiled nappy because there isn't enough staff to change it because they left, because they got sacked, because they wouldn't take a new drug. The chef left as well, so there's no hot meals anymore. It's a continental breakfast. And don't forget, the carers, when they used to work there, would make sure that 85-year-old Jean had a chucky eggs in the morning. They'd help her do it. They'd dip it in the egg for the toast and they'd help her eat it. Not anymore, because they're gone. So Jean sits there, mesmerised, bewildered, and forgets she's even got a breakfast in front of her and doesn't even eat it. And then tea time, it's sandwiches, because there's still no chefs, there's no hot meals. The staff that are left are running around like headless chickens. But we've sacked them all to be safe. Because we must sack these people to be safe. During the winter flu season, coming up to when everybody can get a chest infection, we've sacked them. And they're going to do it to NHS. Does that sound like it's something to vote for? It doesn't sound like much to me. If I was sat there in Mr Working Class Man with me holidays I can't go on and my big £15,000 boiler to buy and my mother soul-destroyingly left in an old people's home and I can't really visit because I've not been vaccinated and I'm not allowed in, so I've got to have a look at her through the window. Have you any idea what makes people tick in this country? Because you've just lost the plot. The Tory party have lost the plot. They've been that used to getting you to vote for them on the back of threatening you'd end up with Labour. What they can't see, now we've got the Carey government, all right, it's managed, headed by Boris, but it's the Carey government. They're so left-wing there's hardly any difference between them and Labour. And they wonder why they're tanking support and people are jumping ship. They're jumping ship because they're up to here. I'm up to there, and I've got a pretty good life. But try and think, Tories, before you start circling the wagons and trying to explain how dangerous it is to split the vote. It's not dangerous anymore. It's not dangerous anymore because what both parties are offering are what we don't want. So it doesn't matter who's in. Maybe if Labour were in, the Tories would have some fight in them. Because I have a strong belief that if the Labour government had tried to put all this laws through, like the virus laws, the Tories would have fought them tooth and nail. They'd never have allowed it. They'd have fought at every opportunity, because there's one thing the Tories will do above all other things, and that's protect the Tory party. They protect their own first. You're tanking support because you've not enough on offer. And the day you start listening, I'm an early warning system. Don't think I'm anti-Tory. I want you to wake up. I want you to realise what's going wrong and sort yourselves out. Put your green boiler on the back burner. And you ridiculous carbon zero that's just going to cripple the country. I want you to wake up and think, yeah, this woman's got a point. Because I'm only telling you what people are telling me, because the difference with me and other bloggers, I listen to them, I read the messages, and I see what they're saying. But oh no, you'd rather go off a cleverly worded YouGov poll, wouldn't you? You'd rather have a cleverly worded YouGov poll where all roads lead to Rome. You can't actually say on a YouGov poll that you do not agree with lockdown. The best option to give you is, I don't know. So you listen to those polls, Boris. You listen to those and listen to your bloody wife, and then see where you sit at the next election. You'll get in, probably, but you'll have a lot less of a majority and you'll struggle to get legislation through. And I hope so.